Guys, welcome to my home. I'm going to run you through the ART range from Axis foils, the 1099, the 999, 899 and 799. I'm going to explain how I use them and which one's my favorite. Stay tuned. Hey guys, today I'm going to run through the ART range from Axis. I've been loving them for all things foiling, downwind, prone, sup, and winging. And I'm going to run through from the biggest foil, the 1099, down to the smallest foil, the 799, and explain to you what it is I like about them and how I use them. So let's get started with the 1099. All right, so you can see this is a big foil. The span is massive, but don't be fooled by the number. 1099, and yes, it is a big span, but in reality, this foil is actually a pretty small foil. It's, look, people compare it to the 1150 or the 1050 for downwind, and it's a much smaller and much faster foil than those two, the 1150 PNG and the 1050 HPS. The reason being is, look how high aspect it is, the chord, and how thin it is. Basically, this thing is a speed machine. I've used it in as light as 5 knots downwind, and I can average from anywhere between 20 and 23 k's an hour on it. That's quicker than I can go a lot of the time on the 999. So they've done something really well with this. And for downwind, I love it. I can get up in pretty much any conditions, from flat water to big bumps, obviously. Look, if you like a wing that pumps really well and is super efficient, this is what you want. Now, while it's a little sticky, it says no jumping. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be jumping on a wing this big. It's not designed for that hard turning, big aerials. It's designed for light downwind conditions, tiny waves, flat water paddle ups if you're really pushing the envelope and progressing, and light wind winging. The first time I used this wing, actually, I was winging in Pittwater doing a lesson, and Adrian was telling me, asking me to try to use it, and I'm like, 1099 seems too big. And so I fell into the trap of looking at the number. So I was loving the 999, looked at the number 1099, seems too big. So I just used it winging, and I got up and going, and I was like, wow, this thing's so efficient, and it felt pretty quick. So I tried it for a downwinder, and I actually went quicker than what I was going in the 999. So for those lighter wind conditions, this is your wing. You're gonna have way more fun. Sometimes you might even go faster if it's light, because it's so efficient and you don't have to work as hard. It's like you stay up in that gliding speed for a really long time. So, I really like the 1099 in the waves. It's good for pumping around, prone or sup, and just going for length of ride. Not so much for turning, although I have seen guys like Jeremy Wilmot turning this thing crazy hard. For me, I prefer to turn the smaller ART range harder. So yeah, 1099. Epic for downwind, epic for light wind winging. For flat water starts, you have to be pretty progressed, but it can be done. And for prone, max time up on foil. Turns, not so much. It's a little bit too big for hard turns, in my opinion. Let's move on to the 999. So obviously it's the little brother of the 1099. I'll show you the difference. Obviously, with the numbers, the span, the 1099, 10 centimeters bigger span than the 999. This one was the first wing I used for downwind in the Axis range, and I was blown away. I did my local Manly to Palm Beach run, and I'd never broken the hour mark for that 25-kilometer distance. And on this wing, I did that. I broke the 1 hour mark, so I averaged quicker than 25 kilometers per hour on this bad boy. It's a really good all-round downwind wing. If it's over 10 to 15 knots, this thing is weapon of choice. I use it up to 25, 30 knots as well, but I'll leave the next for the downwind stuff. I sometimes go to the size smaller as well. But for most people, this is an epic wing for downwind. Really good. For in the surf, look, for me, again, pumping around really good. It turns obviously better than 1099. And on the sup, I actually really love this wing. On the prone, it still feels that little bit bigger. The glide you get is crazy good. but for turning hard, obviously you can't expect something with this bigger span to be turning as well as some of the smaller ARTs to come. What else? Easy. See, they want to come alive. 899 jumping at me. For winging, this is epic. So those lighter wind days, also those sort of moderate wind days and small waves, I'll use this wing. You know, get up nice and easy, glide into the waves, get epic glide time. Great wing. It can be jumped. I still recommend these smaller ones to jump, but look, it's epic for those lighter conditions. And if you want to jump, you can. The main use for me of the 1099 and the 999 are downwind. I try to use these smaller ones for winging and prone, but these can be used. They're great for pumping around. Epic glide, holds its speed really well, can turn, but not as well as these ones. Let's get into the next ones. 899. Okay, the 899. This is probably, if I was to pick one foil to use for the rest of my life, as it stands, this would be it. I downwind on this, I wing on this, I prone on this. Flat water starts. I'm not sure I've done one yet on this one, but I think I could get it if I worked hard enough on it with a, you know, with the conditions and board design. I should try it one day though. Basically, the 899 for me is epic for downwind, especially when it's super windy. Some people have said that it's not so good. I think it's mainly conditions in Sydney here. We get lots of swell and wind, same direction. Or sometimes swells a different direction, but you can get max speed on this pretty well, and it holds crazy good. I've got my fastest ever times on this wing, nudging up towards 28 kilometers per hour average for this foil. Then in the surf, turns really good, glides epic for its size anyway. You got to change your pumping a little bit. You can't push down too hard. You've got to think glide forward a bit more. But yeah, the 899, I really love. And as I said before, if I was to choose one wing to use the rest of my life as the current range stands, this would be it. Forgot to mention winging, but wave riding, winging, this thing's epic too. Turn hard, gets up and going, glides. You can downwind with the wing behind you. I really like the 899, as you probably tell. It's my favorite. All right, and finishing off with the 799. It's the little brother, tiny one. Basically, this thing I've used for I sort of use for bigger prone foiling and bigger winging foiling. So when the surf is big, I'll take this one out and just sort of basically turn harder than the 899 and link. The beauty of this wing is it holds its speed better than you'd think. So I've been out in 3-foot waves on this and linked waves for over 15 minutes. So once you get up to speed, you're going to continue to hold its speed. It does stall out a little bit easier, obviously, that it does stall out that little bit earlier, as you'd expect. It's only small, but that smaller size does make it obviously really good for turning harder, faster. I have downwind foiled this wing too. I'm waiting. I did it once to see if I could do it, and I got up surprisingly easy. And then once up, it was a bit of work, but I think with the right conditions, this thing would be crazy fast downwind. So stay tuned to see that. But yeah, this thing for the bigger days, for the super windy days, for winging in bigger surf, and worth mentioning, I can get this wing up in 10 to 15 knots with a wing, as long as it's steady. And I will use that and do that when the waves are bigger, because I prefer to be underpowered winging and not be overpowered on the wave. So this 799 is really good for that. This 799 is really good for jumping too. I've done my biggest jumps on this thing. I'm not big on jumps with the wing, but the other day I went out and I was boosting higher than I ever have. And it's obviously the speed that you can generate out of it, the angles you can turn upwind, and you know, the loft you can achieve from the speed that it generates. So I like the 799 as well. In order of favorite, I'd probably going to go favorite is the 899. Favorite's the 899. Second favorite, probably the 1099, because of that light downwind ability. And then it's probably a dead heat for the 999 and the 799. In terms of versatility, I think the ART range really covers most of your bases. They come with epic covers, so you can look after all your gear. Look, the ART range from Axis. I'm frothing on it, using it for downwind, for surfing in the waves, for winging in the waves, for just speed winging, jumping, flat water paddle starts. I think you should look into them, and I think you'll be blown away. So go check them out at Axis Foils, ART range. You'll love it.